And so it begins.
You are Locked On Syracuse, your daily podcast on the Syracuse Orange. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Kyle Cuffe is entering the transfer portal. Let's react to it. Hello, everyone. I'm Jackson Holzer. This is Locked On Syracuse, and thank you for making Locked On Syracuse your first listen of every single day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day, and of course, we're always free and available wherever you get your podcasts. And this morning, we got a report from On3's Joe Tipton, a very reliable source, that Kyle Cuffe, Syracuse guard, is entering the transfer portal. I am a little bit surprised that Kyle Cuffe is entering the transfer portal, and let me explain my reasoning, and then we'll talk about perhaps why he decided to it, why it ultimately makes sense for Kyle Cuffe to enter the transfer portal, and what this ultimately means for Syracuse basketball. The reason why I'm a little bit surprised that Cuffe is deciding to enter the portal is because when the season ended, right, they lose to SMU in the ACC tournament. One of the first players to announce his plans for the upcoming season was Kyle Cuffe. And he said in an article, I forgot from exactly which site, and I apologize, that he planned to be back with Syracuse basketball the following season. So I assumed that he was going to come back. But that being said, I did caution all of you saying Malik Brown last year said the same thing when Syracuse was eliminated, that he was planning to come back to Syracuse before, well, all of his friends decided to leave. And then he decides to enter the transfer portal. And it worked out okay for Malik Brown. And I do really wish Kyle Cuffe nothing but the best. I hope that he finds a great landing spot and he goes on to have an excellent rest of his collegiate career. I believe he only has one more year of eligibility remaining. Kyle Cuffe with Syracuse this past season, he averaged 5 points a game in just 12 minutes. He shot 33% from the field and 30% from the three-point line, also averaged about a half a steal per game and 1 assist per game. He's a role player, and the reason why, from a roster standpoint, I think it makes sense for Cuffe to enter the transfer portal is because he's one of the odd men out when you look at the guards for this upcoming season for Syracuse basketball. And who knows, maybe more will start to enter the transfer portal. But as of right now, which is 10:46 a.m., Friday, March 21st. I'm reacting to this right after the news. You got J.J. Starling on the roster. Kiyan Anthony is coming in. Elijah Choppa is still on the roster as of now. You also have Luke Fennell, a freshman just like Kiyan Anthony, that's coming in. That's 4 guards right there that very easily could have been ahead of Kyle Cuffe on next year's depth chart. So it makes a lot of sense for Cuffe to ultimately enter the portal. My guess is that he will find a mid-major school, hopefully have an excellent season. And who knows, if he has an excellent season, maybe he can parlay that into having some sort of pro career. It's not going to be the NBA, but somewhere else. Or he can make a nice little living or a paycheck in this upcoming season. So Kyle Cuffe, I wish him nothing but the best. We'll continue to react to the news here on Locked On Syracuse. We're all about the stats because numbers don't lie, and when it comes to the all-new Nissan Armada PRO-4X, the numbers are on an MVP level. With the ability to tow up to 8,500 pounds, it can quite literally carry the whole team, plus the gear wherever you need to go. It's powered by a twin-turbo V6 engine, delivering the strength and performance to handle highways, back roads, and everything in between, and with room for up to 8 people, the Armada PRO-4X is built for big crews, big adventures, and even bigger memories. Whether you're exploring off-road trails or rolling up to the arena, the Armada PRO-4X brings power, versatility, and style wherever you need to go. Take your adventures to new heights in the all-new Nissan Armada PRO-4X. Learn more at nissanusa.com. Daylight savings snuck up on us again, and if you're feeling that lost hour of sleep, 5-Hour Energy has your back. The extra sunshine means more time for fun, but sometimes you need a little boost to power through. And with Syracuse basketball and the transfer portal, I could certainly use some 5-Hour Energy because you never know when that news is going to break. Whether you're staying up late watching the NCAA tournament, squeezing in a round of golf after work, or just trying to keep up with your busy day, 5-Hour Energy gives you that quick, refreshing pick-me-up whenever you need it. With longer days, I love getting outside for a hike or a run. Tropical Burst is my go-to for a quick boost. Head to 5hourenergy.com to find over 15 flavors to choose from, including watermelon, blue raspberry, and peach mango. You can even build your own 12-pack or 24-pack delivered right to your door. Need one now? Grab a 5-Hour Energy shot at your local grocery or convenience store. They're everywhere. Stock up today and stay energized. This is Locked On Syracuse. I'm Jackson Holzer. And once again, Kyle Cuffe is entering the transfer portal, according to On3's Joe Tipton. The report came out earlier this morning. And folks, if you want more content, well, guess what? Neil Adler from Inside the Loud House will be joining us here on this podcast coming up pretty soon, actually. I'm going to record this episode with him in about an hour. We're going to talk more about Kyle Cuffe, as well as the two players that Syracuse basketball has so far shown interest in the transfer portal so far. More on that in just a moment. I think with Kyle Cuffe leaving, this is only the beginning. What do I mean by that? I think we're about to see a decent size exodus from Syracuse basketball. I put out poll Friday for this week, over under 3.5 returners for the Orange next season. I'm starting to think it's going to be under 3. I don't know about you all. Comment in the comment section below. Cuffe was one of those players I was kind of banking on coming back just because of what he said. He was planning to come back. Now that he's entering the portal, you combine that with Adrian Autry's answer in his final post-game press conference. He chuckled when talking about the returning players for next season. And I took that as a sign that I don't think a lot of these players are coming back. And honestly, rightfully so. They're not going to change the coach. So you might as well try to change a lot of the players because you surely cannot run it back next season and expect to make the tournament. I think this is only the beginning. I would not be surprised if we found out over the next few days if Chris Bell decided to enter the transfer portal. Syracuse is going after a few guards in the transfer portal right now, so I would not be surprised if a guy like Elijah Choppa entered the portal. I would not be surprised if J.J. Starling entered the portal or Donnie Freeman entered the portal. The point being, this Kyle Cuffe entry into the portal signals the beginning of what will be a pretty fascinating offseason for Syracuse basketball. I think a lot of guys are going to go out the door and a lot of guys are going to come in, and we just got to hope that it all meshes together so that at this time next year, we're not really talking about the transfer portal. We're talking about what we really want to be talking about here, which is Syracuse basketball getting ready for an NCAA tournament game. Or if they're playing on that first Thursday, they just won their round of 64 matchup and they're going on to the round of 32. And I don't know about you all, but I've been watching, obviously, March Madness. I watched the first day yesterday. I watched some of the first 4 games as well. My goodness, these teams are good. Did anyone else have that reaction? These teams are good. And maybe it's because we have been living in our Syracuse bubble and we're watching Syracuse versus other ACC teams, and the ACC is just getting destroyed right now in March Madness. But my goodness, we got a long way to go, folks. We got to get some better players in here, and we got to hope that Adrian Autry really is a good basketball coach because they're not moving on from him. Once again, Kyle Cuffe entering the transfer portal, spent 2 years at Syracuse. He started his career at Kansas. I am wishing nothing but the best for Kyle Cuffe in his future. I hope you all feel the same way. Kyle Cuffe, good soldier for the Orange. Best of luck with everything in your future. Coming up here on Locked On Syracuse, I already teased it, but we got Neil Adler from Inside the Loud House. He was already scheduled to hop on the podcast, but now we got even more material to talk about. We're going to obviously go in further depth about Kyle Cuffe entering the portal and what it means for Syracuse basketball. But we're also going to talk about the two players that the Orange have so far shown interest in the portal: Kobe McGee, a Drexel transfer, and Jakari Wright, North Dakota State transfer. I know those schools certainly have all of you all thrilled, but trust me, these guys are pretty good players that Syracuse is going after, and a lot of good schools are targeting them. So it seems like Syracuse is going after the right players in the portal. Thank you all so much for watching. Thank you all so much for listening. If you like this podcast, be sure to hit that like button. If you really enjoy the podcast, be sure to hit subscribe. Tell all your friends about Locked On Syracuse so this channel can grow and reach all Syracuse Orange fans. And I will see you all again very, very, very soon.